Unwrapped Tech Leadership Journeys, Baldur Connect podcast.
Right. And I believe we're live. Pawel, welcome to the show.
Hi, Alex. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Very good to speak to you again. And I was looking forward to this conversation. There is a million questions that I want to ask you because I thought you had a fascinating career. I would almost describe you as a polymath in many ways.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know. Is that a fair assessment?
It might be, right? It's a very colorful background I have there.
So I will attempt to pronounce your name and give a bit of a background about your experience, just so the audience knows, what background you come from. And then anything else that you feel I missed. It's a very long resume, so I'll try to keep it brief. So Pawel Mroczkowski, did I say it right?
Yes, perfect.
All right. So you are a software engineer, scientist, entrepreneur, founder, creative problem solver for more than 18 years. If anybody looked at your resume, it's CEO, founder, co-founder, CTO. And at some point, there's also a tenure as a musician, which I thought is interesting, and we can discuss about that in more detail. But you founded and scaled and exited a real estate development company with over 300 homes planned and built. You're a CTO of a smart home electronics company operating with suppliers all around the world. You're co-founder, CEO, and CTO bootstrapped metal fences B2C company. Over there, you also had some pretty incredible revenue and growth statistics. I believe you had 38% annual year-over-year revenue increase. You're one of the top 3 B2C fencing companies in Germany. You also created 3D, AR, VR sales tools for various industries, transformed a kind of a traditional fencing company into one of the, I guess, is it fair enough to say leading suppliers in Europe?
Globally, basically. Yeah.
Globally as well. Okay, yeah. And you mentioned as well that you reached 7 times the original revenue, which is unheard of. You probably have investors lined up at your door every day wanting to do business with you. And of course, you're a musician for 7 years, 120 countries, and you also attended both Yale and Harvard. So nowadays, you're the CEO of DPR77, which is basically a marketplace for factories and robotics software digitization. Is that an accurate background of your experience?
When you are reading this, it sounds so wonderful, but day-to-day life is of course a hard thing to master. But yes, basically you mentioned everything. Maybe one thing I would add, I did my MBA in Hult International Business School, so that's okay. Maybe what you skipped, but
that's just the top of it. That's the cherry on top of the cake. Yeah.
Right.
Chapter 1, Journey of Growth and Digital Transformation.
Let me ask you this. So just to give you as well a bit of a background. So on this podcast, we have a lot of tech leaders across various industries. Some of them are our existing clients in Germany and US that are, CEOs, CTOs, founders, co-founders, basically tech leaders of various companies that are kind of on a global scale. And we always want to find out a bit about their background to figure out how they got to where they are today, how they achieved all of these things, what advice they would give other people as well, if they want to pursue that kind of a career. And the more interesting thing that a lot of our audience is curious about is getting niche expertise from somebody who's a leader in a particular field and finding out what are the existing trends they're noticing and what are the trends they see going and becoming bigger in the future. Yeah. So in our previous discussion, we talked about digitization, industrialization, many different things. But could you maybe give us a background aside from your resume, like how did you come to do all of these different things? Found so many companies and, get involved in so many different businesses.
Yeah. I think for me, it's quite clear in the back of my head how it all happened, because in every position and in every company I went to, it was somehow about the digitalization and the digital transformation of the industry I was in. And of course, creating some new values and new products along the way. So that's what was driving me since I moved from music to back to business. And it's my pure fascination about creating something what is not there yet. That's what is driving me every day, and I'm looking forward to every conversation just to find out what's happening next. And so that's my baseline, of course, for everything I'm doing. And then just openness for opportunities. When you are meeting a person and you are seeing, okay, there is some great chance to create these things, create the value to go into new markets or combine the ideas from different markets. That's where spark is lighting up for me, and then yes, let's go.
Yeah. And how do you decide, because you've went from some traditional businesses, and it seems like almost your template is you apply kind of a scientific, engineering, logical kind of a mindset, and you apply technology and you use it as leverage, and then you take a traditional industry, digitize it, maybe automate it to some extent, and then is that like the only key to success, or what are some of the other ingredients in that mix aside from digitizing and using technology as leverage?
Okay, then let's dive a little bit deeper in that, because you are mentioning digitizing or digitalization, and there is a fine difference for me between digitizing and digitalization and digital transformation. So if you look a little bit deeper, and that's what I see very often happening in Germany. People are trying to digitalize their companies and not really create a platform for digital transformation of their business. And so if we go into detail of the definition, so digitalization is creating a digital way of the processes which actually already exists. So basic transition from fax to email, or going into CRM programs instead of some business cards, revolvers. And it has to be done to create actually the option to go into digital transformation. But the digital transformation goes much deeper. You are questioning everything about your business until now and making it much broader. You are trying to go into the industry and say, okay, I am not about, I don't want to be the best fax creating company in the world. I want to be maybe about communication. And if you have this in mind, that you are about communication, then every emerging idea from a market, you are evaluating, is it fitting to my idea of communicating? Do I have to still stick to the fax? Or maybe I switch already to some different levels. And that's the very important thing, I think, for me. So I'm going into the ideas or going into the industry with the mind, okay, how can I broaden the perspective on it, and then go fishing for ideas how to create the digital transformation. So the digitalization itself, it's not so fascinating.
That's almost contradictory to what we hear. For example, like a lot of the startups I'll speak to, and whenever they get investment, they get funding, they hear from a lot of investors that you have to go super niche, right? Whereas you're looking at it the other way, it is you're looking more broad. So why is that? What's maybe your philosophy? Why you prefer to do it that way?
Okay. How many of the startups survives? That's the maybe first question. But if you maybe look at that from an investor point of view, right? You should go from a niche out of the broad market because you want to create a speed. You cannot create speed if you do everything in every direction. That's why startups choose some new products. They identify, okay, that's what I think the future will go to, and then you are focusing actually on creating the path of the speed for the investors. So it's right that you should find a niche, but the looking for a niche is very often done wrong. You are looking for a niche from a perspective, okay, which tools do I have and how quickly can I make money, without thinking what the value can I create for the customers for really long term. And do my niche actually is bordering me in something where I cannot go out anymore again.
Right.
It's actually easy to go out of this type of thinking. If you would take an example of Apple, Apple computers, was Apple computers still what, 2007? But like 10 years earlier, 99, they started the Think Different company for them. So that was the change of a mission statement or vision statement. They started to broaden their perspective. They were not anymore about computers. We were buying for like 7 years iPods from a computer company. What have iPods to do with the computer? Not much. And they decided to drop actually the name computer in 2007 when they introduced the iPhone for the first time. We are not anymore actually computer company. And the same should be actually in the mind, in the soul of every entrepreneur. You are going for something, but your mindset should be open to changing the perspective on the products and the industry are working on. And then you can drop the levels, you can create the drive for actually thinking different. Just imagine Apple bought you and what you can do next.
Right. So would you almost, I guess, suggest to like other entrepreneurs to, of course, you need to have a legitimate business problem that you're going to solve, and you have to have customers who are willing to pay for that product or service to solve that problem. But basically, look at neighboring industries or neighboring services that they can provide to further expand their services once they do have some traction. Is that how you view it, or?
Yeah, I'm dividing it actually in an operational and strategic parts. So in the operational part, you have to be completely focused on your product and your niche and creating the value and operating in the market you are currently in. But in the strategic point of view and in the mindset and the culture around what you are doing, you need to create a culture inside of your company while growing to be ready for any change. This readiness is very hard to achieve, to be honest, because people are driven by KPIs and just daily business and looking out of the office window. It's not an easy task to do. But when you create it, wonderful things are happening.
And when you hire people, keeping that in mind, what is your philosophy on hiring? Are you the kind of guy like hire slow, fire fast? Are you somebody who likes to find talent and invest in that talent and develop that talent? Are you looking for people who have kind of the same drive as you? What is the most important thing for you when looking for those team members?
Yeah, that's a hard thing probably to talk about. But when I'm hiring, I try to hire for life.
Right.
So I'm looking for someone who it's not only adding quick value to something. I look for the characteristics of a person who can stick along until they retire, and they can help company. Of course, it's mythical into today's work environment, but having this principle in my head that I will be around this person for a very, very long time, and my team have to cooperate with the person for a very, very long time. It switched slightly the way you're approaching conversation during the hiring process. So yes, it's hiring slow, firing never approach, if I can put it that way. And that's probably how I could characterize this.
One of the people I look up to in business and just technology and philosophy in general is Naval Ravikant, who's like a very well-known investor, founder, co-founder. And he's got a couple quotes that I just kind of remembered. It's like my modus operandi. And one of them is, if you can't see yourself working with somebody for life, don't work with them for a day. And basically, he gets a lot of inspiration from Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, where they say that the highest return in life comes from compounding. Right. And the same thing goes for investing in relationships. And basically, in business, you see sometimes partners have disputes for 10,000 euros, whatever that is. Right. But actually, if you keep investing in that relationship long term, the long term return, that area that goes over a lifetime, it's way higher than any short term gain that you get. So I thought it was quite similar to what you're saying in a way.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Have you heard about Gleicher's formula? Trust formula of Charles Green. I'm revealing some secrets now, but I think that's what podcasts are for. When you are hiring a person for a long-term vision, you are thinking about trusting them. So the trust is for me like a huge component of everything what I'm doing. And there is this trust formula which combines credibility of the person, which you can probably find out during hiring process, the reliability, so how the person is actually working and are they responsive to requests and everything else. This you can find out usually later on when you start work with them. There are some characteristics you can quickly understand during a talk, but it's the daily life which shows how reliable the person is. And then the third component is the intimacy, and that's what probably you just mentioned right now. So how big is the potential that you can get close and personal with the person for a long term? And this potential is what's for me the crucial part. And in the trust formula, you are adding these three components with each other, and you are dividing this by self-orientation of the person. So if they
what does
are
that mean?
So you are saying, okay, credibility is high, reliability is high, and intimacy potential is great, but the person is just about themselves.
Right.
So you are dividing the added value on above through the self-orientation, and the score is low. It's maybe not good fit. Or then there's a question: can you change the self-orientation of the person? So you are trying to hire for a person who is not in love and
self-centered,
just about themselves. They have high potential for intimacy in the future within your team and with yourself, or with the leaders he will be assigned to, and have basic level of credibility and hopefully potential to be reliable in the task you are giving them. And when you combine these things, then you have actually a really, really good higher potential.
So basically, if you have somebody who's not self-centered and they're thinking also, how could their work benefit other people, whether it's on a local scale, global scale, it's like a basically force multiplier of their potential, right?
Exactly. And the other things you can change, some of them you can change. You cannot change the potential of being intimate with the person in the future, or it's a very hard part to change. So that's why I'm focusing probably on this part very much. You can teach them a lot of stuff. You can create frameworks to be reliable, or to have no choice to be something else than reliable. But the self-orientation and intimacy, it's huge deal. So that's my focus.
And that's interesting because when I was younger, what resonated to me a little bit is Bill Gates' philosophy, where early on he basically thought that he can be as aggressive, as driven, and almost as selfish as possible to build up a big moat. And then whether it's financially, reputation, power, whatever that is. And then once he's built up that moat, he can help a wider range of people, right? But if you're not fulfilling your personal needs in a way, like whether it's the basic needs, right? It's like it's difficult to help the rest of the world. Definitely. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. Yes. You need to be driven. But what Bill Gates said there is, it's maybe not. It's great that he can simplify things. That's actually perfect. But it's more fine-tuned when you go into this phase. Because the motivation of being driven can be powered by so many different aspects of your life. And it might be part of your character, but it might be part of your environment. And depending on which side is it powering currently, it might give you completely different outcome. But Bill Gates.
Perhaps the last question I have on your personal background, and again, it's related to this because it seems like in your career and based on our previous conversation, you had a certain level of success in business where you seem to be comfortable enough that you didn't have to worry maybe about, living on the street or something like that, right? And it seems that afterwards you're actually pursuing projects that you're genuinely interested about and things that you're curious about because you want to create something, like you said, that the world has a need for in relation to your skill set, right? So would you say it's kind of a good marker to go by that hits certain level of maybe success or whatever that means to you, financial stability, and then you have more room to experiment and to work on things that you're genuinely curious about?
Yeah. We have like the Maslow pyramid.
Hierarchy of needs,
Yeah. So you have to take care of the basics needs. And it might be just the next... It depends how urgent is the need you have. So you might just jump into the job. It's providing you with some money to survive. And I did some stuff like this in my youth, of course. And but you shouldn't stick just to providing for yourself and for your family. So you have to create a vision and dream and trying to fulfill. And the starting point for that, it doesn't have to be already some on a high mountain. You can start basically from any place in the world and go in the direction of Rome, right? if you know that your goal in Rome is, then you will find a way to get there. And that's probably my good advice for someone who maybe is starting right now. Just start and see the point where you are trying to go, and you will find the right people probably on your way. Have open eyes for everything, for opportunities, and switch the directions so you are closer and closer to where you want to be. Yeah. And it takes a lot of energy and a lot of power.
Yeah. I think that's great advice.
Chapter 2, The Era of AI and Robotics, Transforming Global Dynamics.
I'd like to move on the topic of, like you said, digital transformation. So you've been involved in that area for quite a bit, as well as manufacturing and factories and industrial kind of scale manufacturing. So can you talk to us a little bit about what are the trends you've been noticing recently, and where do you see that shifting over the next, let's say, 5-10 years?
Okay, 5-10 years. In the age of AI, that's a really, really long scope. In a manufacturing world, we are already exceeding in some areas the industry 4.0, even though like 95% of the manufacturing companies didn't enter the 4.0 area at all. But that's where the trend is going. So we are seeing quite a lot of new ways of communicating between human and machines, of course, driven by the AI hype, which happened publicly in the last 1.5 years, but was, of course, in the background of the industry already been created and implemented in last several years. And just the publication and openness to AI, it's driving right now a lot of startups and a lot of creative solutions in this area. And of course, manufacturers are having eyes on that. So we are seeing actually also on our platform and in our environment, huge interest in AGVs and IMRs, like automated guided vehicles, which are being right now also supported with cobotic arms. So you can actually have different collaborations with a robot who is arriving on different stations and participating in some task, which might occur also spontaneously, which is incredible. And there's a lot of software development going in the direction of making the reprogramming and giving a task to a robotic and automation solutions much more easier. So you don't need some high-end developer and engineer to program the robot. You want to give the command, and the robot should figure out how to do it. And that's where the current trend, I would say, is. And what will happen in the next few years, that's I cannot even guess where we go. I mean, for half a year ago, I was thinking, okay, AI is already great. What will happen right now, we have a possibility to communicate with video and analyze all this stuff. We also implemented in our digital twin solution now an option for AI analytics of the digital twin environment and giving lifetime improvements to the solution. And that's probably where we are heading to. So simplification of the communication between a human, machine, and the environment. I think that's in next few years, it will be a huge topic in manufacturing. And another huge topic, I guess, will be the shift from experience and expertise to creative solutions. AI. Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
I have the feeling that for the last century, basically, we were learning from basic school and basic arithmetics, going to study something more specific, to go to the fringe of the knowledge in some specific way. And you are only as good as your experience along the way of your learning path. And AI is switching this. You can be within minutes an expert on a topic, gathering from a vast amount of information, the information you need, and you can boil them down so that it's understandable to you and to the situation you are right now in. So it's actually bringing you to the fringe of the knowledge, which was 30 years of studies like 2 years ago. Yeah? If that's the case, then the expertise, it's still important because you will know how to figure out stuff immediately. But it's not as crucial as being creative in a way of thinking on or giving the direction you want to develop. So we will have to learn how to be more creative along the way. We will have to probably redefine education systems so that our children and the next generations are not so much focused in learning by heart something.
Right.
Yes, but being more creative about developing things AI can later on based on their solutions. They need creative and new way of thinking, and that's still a human thing to do.
So it's almost like we're literally going to the point where imagination really is the limit, right? Your capacity for imagining things.
Oh, even I would go farther. The imagination will be the next baseline. It's
Wow.
not the limit. It's where we should probably start in the future. So if it's developed as quickly as it's developing right now, then the imagination will be the coin of being valuable to the future societies. Yeah,
I mean, that's a very optimistic outlook, because we briefly spoke about that as well last time, that what is going to happen to humans with all the automation, robotics, and so on. So This is kind of a very hopeful message from your side. But I'd like to ask you on a more macro scale, if we're not looking at individual capacity or capabilities of AI and certain electronic robotic devices, but more on a nation state level or countries kind of a level, what are the trends that you see in terms of robotic development, manufacturing, industrialization? Because last time we spoke, you mentioned that you see a trend in reshoring as well from Asia back to the Western countries. Can you give us some more insights on that?
Yeah, so we have, of course, development and business cases in the current environment. We are seeing quite a lot of reshoring, and we are also in talk currently with U.S. government, and here in Germany we have also a connection to the government about how to improve the capacities in local manufacturing companies. Because the offshoring we are seeing for the last 30 years, unfortunately, also outsourced the expert knowledge about how to do the digitalization and transformation, robotization, basically. Digitization is still quite strong. But the robotization and automatization of manufacturing, it's basically went to China, Taiwan, and partially maybe somewhere in India. But basically China got all the necessary resources and the push to automate in the last 30 years. And right now we are noticing the knowledge is not here. We have to rethink how we do our manufacturing. And that's a huge trend. Yeah. So also one of the reasons why we are so focused on creating our marketplace, and in BBR77 we probably talk a little bit about later on. But that's also connected to the topic of education. We are seeing a big spread between a management and a floor production knowledge. And there is very good and very qualified knowledge in the management position, but the transfer from the knowledge to the baseline of the production facilities, it didn't happen in Germany, it didn't happen in France or in USA. And that's what we are seeing. The CEOs are currently worried about, how to close the gap. And we have to find solutions for that. I'm very glad to see that it's already happening. So we are seeing quite a lot of companies trying to go in this direction. We also have a model for education in our particular case, but that's really wonderful. That's we are noticing this.
And what are some of those things that you think governments, let's say, can do on an educational level or training level, or even companies individually to kind of bridge that gap between, like you said, management expertise and the rest of the company?
I have a feeling the government will not be of a big help. In case of manufacturers, it will be the culture think of it in every individual company. So I really urge every CEO and every senior manager to look for the gaps in his departments and in his company, and reach out to providers of education or solution providers to, as quickly as possible, close these gaps, or give tools to the employees to close the gaps themselves. If we wait for a government, that's it's what people are imagining, that government is setting up some framework and then everyone is follows. It works opposite way. The drive have to come from a middle, from SMEs, where 90% of employees are in, and then government will try to regulate it or support it or
as usual
disturb it
Tax
as usual. One of the three things will happen, and then we can react and adjust. But I'm really glad to see some initiatives, like there are NGOs popping up around the Western countries. Also, US government is supporting creation of a robotization hub in Pittsburgh, where I told you are opening soon, our subsidiary. And that's really, really nice thing to see. Yeah.
And last time we spoke as well, and that's potentially going to get into kind of your company and what you guys do. But I was a little bit shocked when you discussed how far ahead China is in terms of robotics. Because last time I was in China was nearly 10 years ago. As I told you, I was in the semiconductor industry, and a lot of the things I saw in the manufacturing plant seemed like, let's just say, was a bit more primitive, but because they had the manpower and they had the cheap labor, it seemed like they could be very competitive price-wise. And then when you told me the statistics in terms of what is it, like robots per 10,000 people, I was
10,000 employees, right?
I was mind blown. So could you give us maybe some insight for somebody who has no idea what is the gap between, let's say, China and other countries?
Sure, with pleasure. But maybe let's start with a question just for everyone who is listening, just to think for themselves before I give some answers. How many robots do you think were implemented historically into manufacturing companies?
The total amount.
The total amount of industrial robots and robots which are somewhere in this industrial setting were implemented.
I would guess it has to be in the millions, at least.
That's already correct. I'm curious what other people are thinking.
Real.
So keep in mind the number you are having. Usually people imagine that it's much more than it was. So based on IFR, so International Federation of Robotics, historically there was 4 million robots implemented in all time yet, which is for me mind-blowing. I when I first saw the statistics, I said, it cannot be. It should be like 50, 100 millions, or I would imagine much more. No, that's not the truth. We are really in the beginning of robotization. The people are afraid that the robots are taking over, and we are actually in the baby steps of the robotization. But to go specific to the differences in the countries and how much drive the countries are having, it's as you said, we are using a measure of how many robots per 10,000 employees are in the different countries. And in Europe, the leading country is Germany, still, which have around 230, 240 robots per 10,000 employees. The world leader in this statistics is actually South Korea. They are approaching 1,000 robots per 10,000 employees. That's where Germany should be already. Also, we are really, really far back. The interesting part is China is also by around 260 robots per 10,000 employees. But now just think how many employees China
How many
has.
people are in China?
How many people are there? So now you are getting the proportions of the people working in Germany with the same amount of robots per 10,000 with the vast amount which is in China. And China is investing heavily. I would say I don't have the exact statistics, so please look it up. But I think around 70 or 80% of investments in robotization is currently done in China. And we are not catching up. We are not catching up right now. We are getting farther and farther behind. And that's the urgency a lot of companies are not noticing. We cannot compete, and our labor force costs in Europe is so much higher than in China. And still they are not replacing the workforce. They are actually improving the efficiency of the work. So they are having much higher output for the same amount of energy spent and money spent on the workforce and robotization combined. And I hope a lot of people will notice this in Germany and really feel discomfort and or dissatisfaction in the current situation.
And do something about it.
Yeah, change is not possible.
Because when you mentioned the ratio, like 200 some robots per 10,000 employees, the first thought that came to my mind is that in no time it's going to be the other way around. You're going to have 200 employees for every 10,000 robots, or at least you would think, right? But what you said is interesting, that you don't necessarily need to get rid of your workforce. You can just use those tools to as a leverage to basically increase productivity.
Definitely. Let me tell you a story. It was like 10 years ago. I started. I was CEO of a manufacturing company, so we had a production plant in Poland, and I had no chance to find the good welders and good people actually to do the work in my company. I could have like potentially 3 or 4 times as much orders, and I could provide the customers with much higher quality if I would have implemented robot at that time. I had troubles to find the solutions, troubles to find the right integrators and so on. So that would have helped everyone in my company actually to grow, to thrive, and to do tasks which are actually increasing the value for a customer instead of just making some monotonous work. Right. And I mean, just do a visit. If you was never in a production facility, go and visit some facilities. Just see how much of the really boring work is still being done.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, we are talking about the example last time that, I mean, every one of us will have buying shoes in next few months. Everyone will buy a toothpaste in the next few weeks, probably, right? But somebody have to produce all that stuff. And do you want to send your children to stand on the production line and put the toothpaste into the tube? No, you don't. And that's the real truth. And just packaging or sorting stuff, it's not where the creativity of a human being could be used at the best. And that's the problem. We have to find a way to improve the life of our employees by educating them to do a work which machines cannot do right now, and just get rid of the really boring and unnecessary waste of life's energy of other human beings, which is happening right now. I think that's actually horrible.
I saw a funny expression somewhere. It's like, I wanted AI and robots to do my dishes, laundry, and chores, so I could do more writing and creative work, but instead it's taking all my creative work and I have to do the laundry and the chores.
Yeah, that's great, but that's a perfect point. Yeah, people are already forgetting that we have robots for this. Yeah, I mean, a washing machine is nothing else like specialized automated machine to do it. Yeah, and I mean, I didn't went to Riverside to do my washing, never. Yeah, basically. So we have already robots around us. We don't see them as robots. It's just automated tasks solvers. But that's basically what they are. Yeah? So washing machine and your dishwasher is just specialized automated machine who do stuff for you. And that's what we are trying to introduce to a production environment. And people are misjudging putting a washing machine or dishwasher into the kitchen that, now the people in your household had nothing else better to do. It's not the case. Yeah? You're very glad that you don't have to do this, and you can focus on much other work. It's the same for manufacturing companies. Really? Putting a robot into a production plant is the same as pushing dishwasher into your kitchen. Yeah.
Chapter 3. Navigating the Frontier. Insights into AI, ethics, and strategic partnerships.
Can you get a little bit into what you're currently doing as the CEO of DBR77? and maybe also like what's your motivation and what's your vision of the company, how you see the company growing, or what needs is it addressing with your current customers that you see?
Sure. So the company was actually founded with by Piotr Wiśniewski, who was I joined him as a late founder at the company, and the idea was basically to solve the problems we were having by ourselves when we were leading manufacturing companies. And I was having a small manufacturing company. Piotr has like 5,500 people, automotive tier one manufacturer, and our experiences in this field are quite similar. So we thought, okay, we cannot be the only ones who are having these problems. Let's find some solution for manufacturing companies. And our mission or our vision is to create products that help people in the manufacturing companies to go through the digital transformation, automation, and robotization. And that's what our focus is really on. We created, first of all, we started with marketplace, so we went actually backwards with our product line. So our first product was marketplace, where we are connecting global technology suppliers with integrators, system integrators, and production facilities who want to robotize and automate. And that solved a problem we were having back then in finding the right solution for my current challenge. I was having a challenge, and I reached out to 2 or 3 integrators I had somewhere around me, and they couldn't find a solution. Right now we are having like 390 integrators on our platform. When you post a challenge you are having, there will be someone who knows the solution for it, and it saves you a lot of time and money to find the right solution. And the second part was based on Lean and Six Sigma. You shouldn't start with automation. You should start with elimination. So you should get rid of every waste you are having in your production facility. Then you should simplify the processes. Then you should automate, and then you can speed up your production process. But there's so many people who approach this like I was doing it back then. I want a robot. Let's put a robot here, and then you are robotizing your problems. That's what we noticed. Okay, we created the marketplace, but we are having so many customers who go this direction, and they need actually support one step before. So we created a digital twin solution where you can visualize in 3 dimensions and analyze everything what is inside of a production facility, starting with warehouse, intralogistic, products, cooperations between human, machine, and everything which goes inside of a production process. And by doing this, we created also very, very broad spectrum of mathematical algorithms and possibility to analyze what is going on in a production facility, which solves the problem of optimizing before you are robotizing. So we are helping to find the best way with current resources to improve your processes, to find your bottlenecks, and to focus on solving them. And then you can
get additional resources.
Yeah, you can get the additional resources to actually solve the challenge you are seeing. And we find out, okay, actually, if you want to do this, you need one step before that. You cannot make proper decision in your production facility if you don't have proper data. If you have gaps in your data, your decision will have gaps in them. And the gaps might be really, really fatal. So we created also our third product, which is actually second in a proper direction, is a big data solution. We have created sensors who can close the gap of information flowing to the management from the production facility. And we are purely focusing on OEE, which is like overall equipment efficiency. So we can calculate this particular part, which is the most important actually in lean manufacturing to improve any kind of process. And when we created this part, we still talk to the customer and we find out that they have sometimes no idea how to do the digitalization at all. They have some gaps before they actually can go into gather data. They don't have any software to do it, and so on and so on. So we created based on our we have also consulting company, and based on their experience from our consultants, we created a product which is digital development roadmap, and we are checking the maturity of a company in a given time to see which steps they can take as the next steps to improve their digital performance. And then in some moment, that's the right moment to introduce
all
IoT
the extra stuff,
and all the next steps. So currently, we are hoping we have now the scope, but of course, we are talking with customers on a daily basis and having the open mind. And we are about helping people to digitalize. We are not about creating digital twins. We help the people to go through the transition. So we are still with open eyes about it. And I'm really, really glad we had in last few days, we are implementing right now AI solution also to support the decision making and really analyze much deeper the vast amount of data we can gather from production facility and make a conversational. So we're going into Industry 5.0 with our solution right now, which is very exciting.
I got a chance to see as well a demo last time we spoke about what that looks like, and it's almost like the Sims game in a way that you have this whole factory and production process mapped out. You have all of the assets that the manufacturer is having already, and then you're just moving things around and it's giving you information how you can make this more efficient or what would be a better way to do this. So no doubt it's something that's going to be very big, especially with all of the robotics stuff coming in. But if I may ask you, if it's not confidential, of course something is, we can change subjects. But you mentioned as well that you do work with governments, and they see a huge need in kind of similar services that you provide as well. What is the motivation now, for example, the German government or US government to be so heavily invested in this kind of technology?
Oh yeah, that's we are so we are having quite a broad network, and we are talking to a lot of people. Let me give you an example. Last week I was in a fascinating networking event. It was about green manufacturing, and there were people from government in this meeting. There were people from basically every kind of manufacturing world, and we were having deep discussion about what's going on, what's the future might be, and how we can actually improve it. And to my big disappointment, in the end of the evening, my conclusion was we still don't have a plan. There are so many wonderful initiatives, but they are currently uncoordinated. And the government is getting support, but it's creating initiatives. There is still no plan in any kind of government, and especially they have not even access to the right experts in the field. If you imagine what's happening with AI right now, to be honest, it's like war zone where all generals are actually on the front, and the government is somewhere behind with some lieutenant who have some partial knowledge of what's actually happening right now. And the gap between what is happening on the front and the people who have the vision, the information, and depth of the knowledge, they have no time, they have no resources to go to the government and teach them how to regulate it, how to support it, how to make plan of it. So I'm really worried how it can be done. And good thing out of the meeting last week is that the governments are noticing it. So slowly but surely, they are seeing that they are not on the source of the current information, and that the initiatives are great and there are really wonderful things happening there, and they are supported by government, but that's happening too slow. So the development is happening much quicker than the regulation and the planning and support from a governmental side.
And on the topic of AI as well. No, that definitely does. And on the topic of AI as well, it seems like even the generals who are on the front lines, they're not actually fighting on the same side. It's more like player versus player. You got all of these different Sam Altman versus Google versus Claude versus the next AI tool, So Are you worried at all about maybe the development side of things taking away faster than it can be? Again, I'm not pro regulations because I think a lot of industries are perhaps overly regulated, especially here in Germany. But there seems to be a lot of fear that, especially with something like AI, we may cross the point of no return, that by the time people wake up, it's going to be out of our control. What are your thoughts on that, since you're much deeper in that world?
Yeah. I'm basically positive about the developments which are happening right now. So my baseline is that it will help the humanity actually to grow and achieve much greater things. But we are in a topic you just mentioned. We are very deep on the topic of ethics and maybe even philosophy. So somewhere between there, it will be difficult and probably in a lot of cases unsolvable to create a perfect world with this kind of tools. Just if you can imagine, last year I talked to a friend of mine who works basically for NASA, but he's doing also some research for a Polish governmental institution, and they were creating an AI-supported driving system for combine harvesters.
Okay.
And even with something which you think, okay, it's simple, it just have to drive like around, you can track it, and okay, it's have to be decided on humidity, is it the right time to do it or not, and so on. But when you go deeper and you think about a field as a living space for other animals, okay, how do you decide driving AI? Do I stop for the animal which is in front of me, or I don't stop? What is the right place to do it? So we are getting in a fuzzy space of big deer. Okay, I'm stopping. A small child, I'm definitely stopping for that.
Yeah.
Rabbit baby,
bird nest,
mouse. Yeah. Where is the line? We want to decide on the ethical point of view, and there is huge amount of research being done. And if someone is into this topic, I can suggest probably like Stuart Russell development, or Professor Klaus, what's his name? Bengler from University in Munich, or Kate Craftford. They are having really deep thoughts in ethics and AI and how we are going to use this. But we have to be sure that there will be some subjective line where we have to put on everything the AI was doing. And I cannot imagine that every government in the world will agree on the same spot where this line will exist. I think morally we will probably know the fringe cases. So, okay, from mouse, I probably not stopping. But for a deer, I am. Okay. But this everything in between, that's where regulations and informations for a human and society will be pushing the AI farther ahead or slowing it down in some sources. And you said there may be point of no return. I'm not sure if that's the case with AI in the current state. Maybe with a super intelligent AI, which we are, of course, somewhat worried about, which will be having access to infrastructure. That might be a worry where there will be some point of no return and the distraction might come out of it. But it's so far from now, currently, I think we will have time to regulate it somehow or create the solutions which will be safe. And we will have to be worried about some people which have bad intentions. Always there are some stuff, and maybe some teenagers who just don't have bad intentions but have just fun on doing something. So we will have to find this out. But basically, I'm positive.
That's good. When you were discussing the example of the combine and ethics, the first idea that came to my mind is like, let's say I have that automatic combine that's processing the field, and then I would think that if it has some kind of sensor to detect that, hey, there is a bird nest, or hey, there is like a family of bunnies here, that you'd almost get a notification on your phone that you can tap, would you like to do? Would you like to pause, or would you like to? Do you see it going that way, where the ethics come to individual people, where maybe there's some broader framework from the government that, hey, we don't kill any animals like bigger than a certain size, but insects are okay. But all the edge cases that you would get the decision if the technology can identify something is there. I don't know if I'm going too sci-fi here, but what are your thoughts?
No, you are going in wonderful direction. So we are creating a new company. And,
done.
But that would be probably just a step in a process, because when you are having a dilemma, not a problem. For a problem, you can find quickly a solution. But when you are having dilemma, that's where entrepreneurial spirits are jumping in.
Right.
So you can, of course, have an app which says, okay, what are we going to do? But probably very quickly there will be some startups saying, okay, I might have solution to scare off the
right.
bunnies. Yeah, or I have a product which actually is monitoring the movements of the animals and add the information to the combine, so he's driving around and just not bothering any animal, basically. Yeah? So we are having a new field out of ethics, which are creating new possibilities for human to be involved in to create new products. And
that actually exists already. A company I spoke to at Bits and Pretzels in Munich last year. It's like the big startup festival. And one of the companies, they basically also have contracts with cities and governments that they have all kinds of cameras and detectors and sensors to basically monitor wildlife in the area, which I thought is super cool. Like they can see the migration of birds. They can see all of this kind of stuff in detail. So I'm going to take your approach and stay hopeful as well.
Definitely, that's amazing.
Bonus, quick questions.
Pawel, I have a couple more questions because I'm mindful of your time as well. So we talked about obviously talent shortages, like in relation to, it's a common fear that with automation, there's going to be talent shortages. And your solution is that people are going to be looking for more creative work. How do you see companies taking care of those talent or skill or knowledge shortages in the short term? And where do you see, let's say, humans and machine may be operating together, in the future? I apologize if that's a very broad question, but I'm just trying to imagine what that would look like. So basically, how do we address that in the short term? And where do you think it's going to go in the future?
Yeah, it's a very broad question. That's right. I mean, it's probably, if I can rephrase it, it's how, from my point of view, the future of work might look like.
Okay.
And to answer this, I think there is a supportive part of the technology where your talents and your skills will be just enhanced by the technology you are having. So if you have your talent, you could make a factor, whatever it is, and improve your... Yeah, exactly. And then you will have the part where you are just closing gaps of the knowledge and improving your own capabilities. I think we talked about this also last time. It's for me a little bit like a chess. We want to be involved in a work. We want to be involved in life. And it's not bad thing that we have actually a AI who knows better how to do things. Yeah? And I can learn from it. I can improve my skills. And then I get and give more value from my life to other people and improve other things. Yeah, it's really like a chess game. I'm learning so much from playing a bot. Yeah, but it's nothing in compared to playing against a human and talking about how we can improve further or how my mind worked against somebody else's. And I think that's what the future might look for me, that we are really using the technology to improve ourselves. And in the things we are great already about, that we will enhance our skills with this. So I don't know if that's deep enough.
No, definitely.
That's probably like broad vision to the broad question.
Again, it's a very optimistic approach, which I appreciate because there's a lot of doom and gloom all the time. It's always people who, like when electricity came, they thought that the guys who go and light the lamps in the park are not going to have any job. Yeah. And the next thing you know, they found a job. So maybe it's a human-like thing that we always think is the end of the world and everything is near, and then there's always some kind of a creative solution, I guess.
Yeah, but since you're mentioning that, I mean, in Harvard, they are always putting in mind, okay, think also the opposite way, or find some devil's advocate. And let's be honest, we are having an intelligence quotient curve. Yeah. And of course, you can push some creative works and skills on different people. Yeah, it doesn't have to be in a high end of IQ. You can be very creative without having some computational skills on your side. Yeah, that's definitely true. So it will equalize some part of it, but to work with the technology, it will be more difficult for the people on the side which have lower IQ. And we have to find still ways to work with them on the find fulfilling life and fulfilling goals, and what they can do to society, to everyone else. And I think that's a huge open field for creative work solutions and job to be done. It's not that AI will replace everyone and then there is like 10 million people doing nothing. Yeah, there are so many shortages in so many jobs. If you look in Germany, like taking care of elderly people, and I mean, I was working in a fencing company. Yeah, so try convince AI to dig a hole and put a pole into the ground in the right place. Yeah, we are not there yet. So there will be a few generations before they have to be worried about this kind of stuff. And this can be very fulfilling and interesting way of doing things. Yeah? Through the Industrial Revolution, we moved away from using our hands to create things. And we are seeing in the last years, and the research is proving that moving a lot of people from manual work is not good for them. They are really mental health issues based because the people are not using the skills which they are genetically actually prepared.
Physical capabilities.
There's like full generation of Polish guys who were forced to go to gymnasium, but basically they want to do some forging, building, and things with stuff. Not only guys, yeah. So it will be also girls and so on. Sorry for generalization, but that's where you see it, and you see the complaints. The people are after gymnasium, they are studying, and they're going back to the manual work and handcrafting, and this kind of stuff. So we probably have to also rethink what we see as a value and to where we develop our talents when we have somebody else taking care of the basics and everything else.
Yeah. Well, Pawel, thank you so much. Really appreciate all the work you're doing, all the work you've done. It's good to see somebody with high intelligence and optimism and obviously ethics in the right place, working on big problems. I look forward to catching up with you in the future, seeing where life takes you. So thank you so much for this. Do you have any parting words for our audience or anything else that you'd like to share?
Oh, thank you, Alex, for that, first of all. And I mean, we are all humans, yeah, and we are approachable. So if you have a manufacturing company and you want to solve some problems connected to digital transformation or robotization, reach out to me, to Piotr, or to our team, and we hope to help you. And of course, I'm very open for discussions and talks about how we can actually drive forward with AI and robotization in the future. So I'm very open for discussions, and please contact me.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Pawel, and wishing you all the best.
Alex, same for you. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Unwrapped Tech Leadership Journeys, Baldur Connect podcast.